Welcome to ELH4X4 doing stuff. We're working on the replacement engine, transferring parts over to it. I lost audio for a large portion of this video, and what I'm explaining to you now is that I got a replacement knock sensor, so that way we're going to have two new knock sensors in the engine.
I couldn't remember if it was the rear knock sensor or the front knock sensor that was the old one, but I ended up finding it was the front one. Make sure that you torque these things down to 15 foot-pounds. It's recommended that you add silicone to the knock sensor seals that prevents moisture from getting in and actually corroding the knock sensors. I'm attaching the AC mount to the engine. Take the time to clean the seal surface. Make sure you lubricate the area that slips over the crank. I'm going to be adding assembly lube to the seal itself, and we're going to get ready to install the harmonic balancer. Try to get the balancer on the crank as evenly as possible, and make sure while you're putting the balancer on that the seal doesn't fold under. And if it does, I'm just showing you that you can use a soft implement, something that's not going to cut or tear the seal, to use that in case it does fold in. You can slip that in between the seal surface and the seal and kind of bring that folded area back out. I'm gently hitting the block of wood with a small hammer just to get the harmonic balancer started onto the crank. You don't really want to wail on it because you could move the pulley off of the actual balancer itself, because there is a piece of elastomer in between the two surfaces. So just, it's not recommended you do it this way. Actually use the install tool and it'll prevent any damage. But take your time and hit it gently if you don't have those tools. Take the time to look at the balancer to see if it's going on crooked. You definitely don't want to do that. So try to get it on there as evenly as possible. And then once you get one or two threads of the bolt in place, just finger tighten the bolt, gently hit the balancer on, tighten the bolt down by hand until you get a couple of threads, and then you can start wrenching down on it. Once you start wrenching the harmonic balancer down with the bolt, as soon as it touches the seal, take a good look at it, make sure that it's kind of going on even and that the seal isn't being folded under. As it is happening here, the seal is being folded under on one side. So we're going to take the implement and try to start working it out gently and without ripping it. That way you don't have to do it all over again. more than half of the seal was folded under. So what I did was I just used that zip tie and went, full 360 rotation around the seal surface and unfolded the seal, and now it's good to go. And continue to tighten it down. Showing you the torque sequence and the specs. It's 150 Newton meters, back it off to 50 Newton meters, and then tighten it to 140 degrees, which I found out that I'm going to end up exceeding the capability of the torque wrench. I'm going to be using a flywheel lock that I use on air-cooled Volkswagen engines. And it came in handy for this instance, and I was able to start the torque sequence, but then, like I said, I ran out of the wrench ran out of the capability, and I only made it to like 109 degrees. So there you have it. I'm using a razor blade to scrape the paint off of the potential ground lugs. I'm not sure if it's the upper hole or the bottom hole, and I'll end up finding out when it comes time to install it. I'm working with the crossover pipe now. Uh, it didn't look like it, but there was actually a seal that was still attached that had to come off. So just make sure that you remove all the seals before putting the new ones on and attaching the crossover pipe. The portion of the gasket with the seal on it goes around the nipple of the crossover pipe. And when you're routing the crossover pipe, it goes underneath of the wiring harness of the knock sensors, because the clips on the knock sensors attach to the crossover pipe. The valve cover with the PCV port goes on the driver's side. And what I'm doing here is I'm just installing them finger tight. I will eventually torque them down because I was debating whether or not to leave them on while installing the engine. So I want to take the time to thank you for your patience. Audio is restored after these clips. So thank you and appreciate you guys. Filler neck goes on passenger side. And with these gaskets, thin side goes in first. I already know what's going to happen. That's weird. All right. This is going to be too tight. And you're going to be struggling and fighting and putting one end in. Kind of like what's going on now. Right, you see it's kind of tight. It's just going to constantly pull itself out. So what you can do is just give it a little stretch. Stand by. That might be the shipper. No, it wasn't. All right. It's in all around. Fill neck towards the front of the engine. We're going to clean the valve cover bolts. Get these old grommets or seals off. Just cut the bottom of it and it'll tear right off. All right, so I'm going to clean these up and be right back. All right. These just slide over. And then this part fits into the valve cover and it kind of holds the bolt in place, captures it. Right, so you got to make sure when you put it in that the seal goes all the way down. And it sits flush. Might have to take it off. All right, let's take it off. Where are we looking? All right, and that looks pretty flush. You could even grab the bolt from underneath and kind of wiggle it in there as we lose our valve cover seal. All right, those are in. There we go.
No, we don't. All right, let's get you out of the way here. See, the seal's starting to shrink up again. So it's pulling itself back out. All right, there we go. I'm just going to leave these things a little bit finger tight. That way, if I need to take them off while putting the engine in, I don't have to scramble for a wrench. All right, there we go. This thing is, as it sits right now, is ready to go inside of the engine compartment. Oops. I lost that one somewhere. The truck ate it. Well, I guess it's that one, because it's a different thread. Maybe not, maybe there's just some like corrosion on the threads since it wasn't used. So there we go, we'll just leave those in. Now we're ready to put it. All right, I'm going to do a couple other things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this other side. This way I'm not, guessing which bolt or which hole is for the torque converter. There are, you can see witness marks and stuff like that. I don't know if you can. All right, we can see some shiny stuff around the hole. So what I'll do is I'll just spin the flywheel around and maybe mark it with something, put an arrow next to it. All right, how about some chalk? All right. You just kind of mark everything up. I should be able to see that, right? All right. All right, I guess we're just finding stuff to do now, waiting for the shipping company. So we're going to pull and drop it, right? Looks like it has Teflon, the PTFE thread sealer, so that's what we'll do. There we go. Didn't really want that to happen. Okay. So I got a zinc additive in this. Just to get it started. We're going to come back around to that. Just in case we don't. Tighten it down. And for that broken clip, I guess what we can do is throw a zip tie around it, maybe. Okay. There we go. Now let's put it off to the side just in case it falls off. There we go. All right, I'm happy with that. All right, parts started trickling in. We got the oil pressure. Already has a sealant and a crush washer on it. Remove the cam sensor. I don't have the special tool that screws that in. New PVC valve. PCV, positive crankcase ventilation. Okay, PCV. All right, let's get this thing out of the way. I had to run into town and get some hardware. The bolt, exhaust manifold bolt on the old engine broke off. So I got a replacement. Waiting on the transmission. I think this is, yeah, 1 1/16. Whatever the metric conversion of that is. All right, I gotta find sockets. There they are. So once the transmission shows up, that's really the only thing that's keeping me from putting the engine in, because I want to be able to slide the transmission underneath the front of the vehicle. All right, because I'm able to jack the front of the vehicle up, and then I'll be able to slip the transmission under the front bumper, slide it back into the tunnel, and then put the engine in. Well, we can put our cam sensor back in. And then maybe we can torque the flywheel if we can reach it through the engine stand. So we'll find that out. All right, so I have room underneath. All I had to do is just rotate the engine, and then we got some access to it. And then we'll use that same flywheel lock for the air-cooled. All right, we'll put that in there and somewheres. And then all I got to do is just find the torque for the flywheel. Maybe back it off a little bit, and then there we go. We got access somewhat. Maybe another tooth. Yeah, perfect. There we go. All right, let me get everything set up. All right, final one. All right, there we go. All right, I'm going to top this off. I'm running conventional oil through the break-in process. Keep filling this thing all the way up. This should help with the priming process. All right, always get into the habit of making sure the gasket from the old filter is still intact and not stuck to the engine block. All right, snug that down. All right, I think we're just waiting on the transmission. That way we can stab it into the engine bay. I did other research, 106 inch-pounds on the valve covers, 18 foot-pounds on the exhaust manifold bolts. I think it was 18 foot-pounds on the intake manifold. Yep.